Now for the track guide. Before starting, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out GitGUDRacing.com. I have a lot of courses that can help you with that. Now going into the track guide itself, turn 1, braking point is quite uncomfortable because you're turning and also braking at the same time. You're trying to position the car in a way. So it's super important to look ahead of time and notice that the track changes the space that you can use once you go past this this orange box on the right side. You see the white line isn't going straight anymore and it starts to go a bit on the left side. So it's important to notice that, because ideally you want to align yourself not with this space around here. You want to look forward and you have to align yourself just past the 100-meter board with the white line. So because of this, because you have to do all of this while you're still braking, this corner is uncomfortable and vision is important here. So make sure you're looking further ahead. In terms of reference for braking will be this exit concrete road on the right side, close to 100. This is the moment that you should be preparing to brake, and the braking point can vary a little. You can brake slightly past that, but in any case, what you want to achieve is having your right tires here. There's a little bit of space to the right side of the white line. In between the white line and the grass, there's a little bit of concrete right here that you should be using. And in order to use the track perfectly just like this, you have to look ahead. While you're preparing to brake, you're glancing at your braking point, which is the exit concrete road close to 100-meter board. You know that you have to brake shortly after. You start braking and you're looking further ahead. You're not looking too much on the right side at the 100, because otherwise your entry won't be as good as it could be in terms of track usage. Now for this corner, the main important thing is how much you can cut, and this will be a theme for Imola. So in third gear, we're turning more and more, and we're looking not at the first black anti-curve, but at the second here, the one in the middle, because you want to touch it with your left tires. You want to hit the second one. The suspension will handle it, and you want to use 90 degrees of steering lock, even increase it a little bit. As you can see here, we have a little over 900, because we're looking at this white line on the left side. You want to have your car as close as you can, ideally, to that. You won't go to the white line because it will be impossible. We're pushing a lot of speed. But in your mind's eye, you should be thinking that if you're bringing the car a little bit more towards the left side, even if it's just a little inches, you will still have a superior run into this corner. So that's the whole idea. Now, the exit of this corner is the one that actually matters. So we're pushing the throttle the moment that we feel that with the rear tires we're mounting the curb, because we don't want to unbalance the car on the rear. So the moment that we are on the curb with the rear tires, and you're feeling this in the force feedback, you're pressing the throttle and you go 0-100 very quickly. You shouldn't be close to the white line on the right side. So your positioning should be in the center right. And then from this angle onward, we will first get to this middle part. This is a very subtle detail, but we now have, as you can see here in the overlay, we have 0 degrees of steering lock. And this is important. You don't want to steer very quickly on the right side. We want to arrive to this center position with the steering so that the weight of the car will be settled once again, because we just mounted the curb. The car jumped a little because we touched that black anti-curb as well. And the car needs some milliseconds to settle. So it's important to not rush the turn to the right side. Do it on feel, but make sure you're paying attention to this, because once you will feel that, once you just keep it center just a tiny bit and then you turn, the car will be better balanced. And here you will mount the curb just like that. Do a lift. It's okay if you do even a bigger lift than this. It's going to depend on setup and other things. Also hit this curb. And regarding the setup, if you want to go even quicker, if you want a good setup shop that I actually believe in, that I tested it myself, I recommend Go Setups. Their setups are amazingly quick, and we also have a 10% discount code. Link will be in the description. But now going into the next corner, you're looking at the 50-meter board, and it's super important to avoid looking too much on the right side, because the next corner is a left-hander, and it's similar with turn 1. If you're looking too much on the other side, you will lose performance. What I would encourage you to do, depending on the weather, depending on if you have anything else on the track side. Notice if there's something that you can use which is on the track. So for example, if the sun is exactly like you see here in this video, you will notice this shadow which corresponds to closely the 50-meter board, which appears here on the track. So if you know that there's a shadow near the 50 that coincidentally is also on the track, use that instead of the 50. You have to pay attention to this because it's going to depend based on weather, but the 50-meter board is going to be your best friend if there's nothing else that you can use on the track. Just don't look too much at the 50 so that you won't lose time. Brake with your right tires on this concrete on the right side of the white line using everything. In fourth gear, go to third as you get closer, and now the rhythm of the braking will be quite crucial. So once again, you want to cut the curbs, and once again, you want to get very close to the white line on the exit. In this case, even closer than in turn 1. But what you're gonna do with the braking is a bit unusual. Generally, when we're braking, we hit the peak, and then we're trailing, and then we're going back to throttle. But here, we actually don't do that. So first of all, we're going completely over the curb. We're cutting that last black anti-curb, so the third one. Look how much curb we're using, all the way to the grass. This is key. There is a slowdown around here, so you should be careful to not hit it. But make sure you're getting close to that limit. And what we're doing here, we're not actually using that much braking. We want to push speed, and also if you're braking too hard while turning, you can trigger the ABS. So we released the brakes almost to 0. We're not going to 0, we're going to 2%. So we brake hard, released 2%. Now the car is, this screen right here is important, is all the way on the white line. And now for the next corner, we are bumping the brake pressure even more. So look, right now we're braking more and turning. So if you look at the brake tricks, this is how it looks. An initial spike following by a quick drop, following by a reapplication of the brakes without dropping it to 0. And now pushing the throttle, cutting that curb. And it's a tricky chicane, but make sure you're putting the time and effort to understand it, to exploit the track limits, and also to push more speed by releasing the brakes initially and then braking again. You will see this in Ascari. Not Ascari, in Aqua Minerali, I'm sorry, in the next chicane quite soon. So for the next corner, the reference for braking will be the 50-meter board or the ending of this concrete. You're going to be pressing the brakes at the end of the concrete on the right side. You're going to brake on a straight line. Super important here in second gear is to have a late apex. So we're turning quite late, and make sure you're cutting the white line. Don't go on the curb, just hit that white line, push the throttle, but because you have this amount of steering lock applied, the car will start to have some wheel spin on the corner exit. You see here with this blue lights, make sure the lights are barely flashing and you're going to 0 degrees quickly. So you have to be quick with your hands on the way out, and you have to take a late apex. Because if you're going to take an early apex, basically what you're going to do, this will force you to stay longer with more steering lock applied. It makes sense, right? Because you're apexing early, the corner takes longer. So you're shortening the corner by apexing later. You will stay with the maximum amount of steering lock applied for less time, which will be very good for your exit, right? Because you will notice if you apex early, you will have to wait with the throttle, because otherwise you will get so much wheel spin. So make sure you're aware if that happens. Now going into the next corner, once again, the 50-meter board is going to be your friend. Past the 50, you're going to brake and turn. You have a slight moment to keep the car straight, like straight line braking, but then you have to turn aggressively in third gear. Make sure you're cutting the curb a little bit. There's a line that can work where you go even deeper on the curb. So it's up to you. In my opinion, both lines will work the same. It just happened that in this lap, we didn't use all the way this curb. But this curb, if you cut a little bit more, it has the ability to make the car turn a bit more. The downside is that you have to wait a bit with the throttle. So it will give you more rotation, but you will lose a tiny bit on the exit. So in the end, it's more or less the same thing. Now going into this chicane, this is what I was talking about. So first of all, make sure you're using all the space right here. Notice that we're putting the tire all the way to the grass, so not the white line is not the track limit. You will be much slower if you're aligning yourself with the white line. You will brake past the 50-meter board, you'll brake and turn almost at the same time. The braking is very soft initially. That's key here. It's like the previous chicane, you're braking softer initially, but then you're bumping more the pressure. So look, braking softer, 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 cutting this curb completely just like that, barely holding the brakes, like 10% braking. But as the car will go to this no elevation zone, will bump up the pressure. So bump up the pressure more and more and more and more. And once you hit a point where you have close to 0 degree steering lock, then you will brake even harder and use all the curb here on the left side in second gear. And now you have to release the brakes because now you're going into this corner on the right side. So make sure you're releasing it quite quickly. Notice how quickly we drop the brakes because you don't want to have that amount of steering lock plus the braking. It will give you understeer, or you will just overheat the tires too much. And then cut the curb without touching the black and yellow anti-curbs and push the throttle aggressively. It's a very tricky chicane, and the one that comes next is also not easy. Reference for braking will be the middle of 150, so here in the middle we're pressing the brakes. It's a little bit closer to the 50-meter board, but make sure not braking at the 50 because this will be very, very difficult to manage the speed. You can get oversteer, you can just miss the chicane completely. You need to have the car balanced because this is such a difficult chicane. The most important thing is the way that you're cutting. So the lap time is gained here by cutting more the chicane. Now, to cut more and still have the car balanced, that's difficult. So in second gear, you should be cutting this without having too much brakes applied because you need the car to settle on its own. If you're braking and also turning, the car won't feel properly balanced. So make sure when you're cutting this, you're barely holding the brakes, just like that. And now when the car lands, let it land. Like just let it land, and quickly when the front tires land, you have to steer. You have to steer very quickly. If you have one word to think in this chicane is quick hands, because those two corners are very close one to each other. Compared with the previous chicane, it wasn't like this. So because we have these two apexes very close one to each other, we really need quick hands around here. So you're jumping, you're landing, immediately turn the steering wheel. Immediately, very, very quick movement of the hands, and then reapply the brakes a little while you're doing it. Go completely over the curb and go on throttle 0-100 very, very aggressively because this leads to a decent straight. And now we're heading towards the last part of the track. We have a left hand. The reference for braking will be the 100-meter board. You want to brake in a straight line. Keep 0 degrees of steering wheel angle. Use this curb to brake on it. This is not yet a 3D curb, so you can fully exploit it. It feels like it's flat. And then you will bump the pressure a little bit more when you get closer. In second gear, go completely over this curb. The moment that you feel it and you're landing it with your front tires, that's the moment that you're pressing the throttle. Push the throttle 0-100. Hold 100 up until you go past this darker color tarmac, and after the darker color tarmac you drop the brakes to 0, drop the throttle to 0, apply a little bit of brakes, don't brake too much. Your goal with your vision is to look at this grass because the car will go wherever you look. So look at the grass and then push the throttle, go completely over it, and that's the lap. It's a very technical track, so once again, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out GitGUDRacing.com, check out Go Setups for setups, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one. Bye bye.